Hey y'all, just want to provide a quick introduction to Adobe XD. Right below this video there is a full introduction by Howard Pinsky, who works with Adobe and who lives, eats and breathes Adobe XD. And so I would encourage you to definitely make sure you watch that. It's part one and we'll go over part two I think in next week's modules. But by all means, watch both of these, please. They're going to serve you quite well to get you up and running with Adobe XD. So I'm going to bring up Adobe XD real quick. Once you have it installed, it should be exactly the same as you would for Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop. And so that's through the Adobe Creative Cloud platform. You should be able to use your YSU ID. If you're having any troubles with that, please reach out to YSU's tech support. They're going to be able to walk you through that and are your go-to for anything you might have for that those issues as well. Once you first launch Adobe XD, it's very similar to what you would expect with Photoshop and Illustrator and other tools that Adobe provides. I can quickly select an artboard. I can see my recents here. And one of the things that I really love about these onboarding screens by Adobe is that they always provide helpful videos to learn and to grow in these products. So Adobe XD is no different. You can see some great videos about getting started or about designing or prototyping or collaborating or design systems. And we're going to be doing all of these different things within our course, within our semester here. And so, this being maybe a little bit lighter of an introductory week to UI and UX and interactive design and all the things that we're going to be covering this semester, I would encourage you to to take any extra time you might have and dig into learning Adobe XD. It's a new tool, I'm sure, to a lot of you. Probably have used Photoshop and Illustrator in the past. And so with learning a new tool comes the hiccups of onboarding into learning a new layout and things like that. And so use this time where we're a little lighter. We're not in projects right now. To dive into Adobe XD and to learn more about it. It's going to be our tool of choice. We might use some other tools within the course, but definitely invest in learning more about Adobe XD before we get started in week 2. And so from here, like I said, a lot of great video content here. What I love about Adobe XD is it is a tool for designing interfaces, for designing interactive prototypes. And so from here, I can quickly select some of their most popular artboards, whether that's an iPhone or a mobile product, a web product, an Instagram story even, or I can select the drop down and do Instagram post or Twitter or a header. And these are so awesome to have these available at the very beginning here at this launch screen. I handle social media accounts for other entities. And so, being able to really quickly jump in and not have to Google search, what size is a Facebook cover photo? Because it seems like it changes about once every other year or so. And so for this, maybe this overview, what I want to do is maybe just quickly design a food app and walk you through it and maybe provide some tips and tricks that I've used along the way in Adobe XD. This by no means replaces the video that Howard has that I've supplied there below, but maybe just provides a little bit of more context of how I use Adobe XD and how I think it's such an easy tool to be able to use for interactive design and for prototyping as well. So I personally have an iPhone 11, and so I'm going to bring that up here and we'll get started. So I click on this artboard. You can see that the artboard comes up. I can see it's already pre-labeled as iPhone XR, XS, Max 11-1. And so that's typically not the best name for an artboard. And so what I'm going to do to rename that is to come down here in the bottom left corner and click on the Artboards panel, or the Layers panel. And so if I click on Layers, it brings up all my artboards. As we build this out, you'll see the layers continue to grow, very similar to what you might expect in Photoshop when it appears on the bottom right-hand side. So what I like to do is just keep a clean artboard, keep a clean canvas. So I'm going to name this 1.0 dash, we'll say recipe description. I'm not the greatest speller in the world, and so please forgive me. Please forgive me when things are misspelled in here. You can see a really simple interface on the left-hand side. If you're familiar with Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, their left panels are very complex, right? Because there's a lot of different things you can do with the Pathfinder tool or with the vector tool or with lines or with masking and things like that. And so their panels are very robust with a lot of different options on the left-hand side. XD, not so much. Very streamlined. So you see just the pointer or the select, and I'm a huge fan of shortcut keys. And so I love that when you hover over these, especially as a new user, they bring up, what is the shortcut key? So for select, it's V. The rectangle tool, the ellipse tool, the polygon line, the pen tool, and then text. So very simple. These first 5 or 6, 7 or so icons here, very straightforward. And then really it just depends on what you do with the rectangle or the ellipse tool and things like that. And I'll show you maybe some cool tips and tricks to maybe more rapidly and quickly generate a prototype here. Here, this second to last icon is an artboard. And so if I tap this, you see on the right-hand side of my screen, this changed. And so if I quickly wanted to add a different variant, so oftentimes in application design and mobile design, it's not good enough just to design a screen for an iPhone app. More than likely, you're going to have users who are using a different product, an Android product like Google or like a Samsung. And so maybe you want to design for an iPhone 11 screen here, but maybe your next biggest, most popular screen that you're designing for is a Google Pixel 4. And so you can see the artboard is just a little smaller because that device has a little bit smaller screen than an iPhone 11. And so for this demo, I'm going to delete it. We're just going to do one screen here, and we'll start there. Simple shortcut keys as well. So if I want to zoom in and out, I'm just using the command key on my Mac keyboard, and I'm using my mouse to scroll in and out and to zoom in. You can also come over here on the left-hand side. You see zoom. I can hit Z and I can zoom in and out and move that way as well too. So really simple layout. Again, on the left-hand side, you're going to see where we're currently at right now is in this layers panel where I can see artboards and layers. Really easy ability to search as well. So I love the fact that you can search as you dig into UI, UX more and more and more. You're going to have a lot of different layers, a lot of different screens and panels. And so being able to quickly search for, recipe description is huge because I can actually just filter my panels and go right to the screen that I need to, which is a great feature to have within your prototyping tool. On the left-hand side, then you see another category here, this icon called the libraries panel. And so we're going to get into the libraries a little bit more further in the course. When we're doing style guides and things like that, they'll be a great asset to be able to take some of the things you do in your mood boards, take them into style guides, and just really expedite the creative process inside of Adobe XD. And this last plugin is called, icon is called plugins. And so plugins are super helpful to expedite the design and the build process. I typically, don't have a ton of plugins, but I do have plugins that are most useful to me. I have an icons plugin so that I can quickly grab icons within my product. I have this Stark icon, which is a great plugin to test your designs against accessibility considerations. So when you're designing products, you want to make sure that your colors match a certain level so that folks who are colorblind are able to see the buttons or see the icons. And so Stark's a great plugin to be able to take two colors, pair them against each other, and see whether or not they are accessible. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee here, and we'll get started. The last plugin here is called UI Faces. I love UI Faces. When you're designing a prototype, oftentimes you'll need to include a profile. And so, back in the day, you used to have to go and search for somebody's profile picture, and you had to search on Google for that. The fact that it's a plugin right now just really makes it a streamlined process. And so let's dive in. I'm just going to quickly build an app and maybe talk my way through it and hopefully provide some tips and tricks on how I'm doing that. So I'm hitting the shortcut key for a rectangle, and I'm going to just create what I would consider maybe the top navigation. Now I just randomly threw in a size there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to maybe be a 80 pixel tall navigation. And so you can see how that plays on the page. It kind of sits very nicely at the very top where I would expect to see a navigation for my product. I'm going to make the background fill for now. I'm going to make it black because I know I have a logo that's going to be really good as a knockout white there. One thing I need to do for a navigation is I'm probably going to need a menu there on the left-hand side. And so what I'll do is I'll come over here to my plugins and I'll find the icons for design plugin, and I'm just going to type in the word menu. And you see it pulls up a lot of different options, a lot of different varieties here. And so I'm going to pull in this one and just drop it in here. And you can see it brings it here. It brings it as a default black color. I'm going to bring it in and I'm going to make it a white. Now I've lost it, so I'm going to bring it up here so I can see it there. What's great about UI design and Adobe XD is you're really easily able to get pixel perfect here. And so I see I have 3131 as my height. I might adjust this to be more even numbers here. So let me make this 16, and we'll see what happens there. And now I've got 32, 32 top and bottom, so I know that's sitting center. 24 pixels to the left feels really good. One thing that I love about Adobe XD too is that it auto generates some of the grids. And so this is a 4-column grid. We'll talk about grids in some other courses. And so I can see where things are sitting. Typically in the navigation, it's okay if it falls outside of that grid, but it's really nice to have your content within that grid as well. I can really easily turn it off by hitting Shift Command and the comma. And that's, oh, sorry, not the comma, the apostrophe. But that's a really nice shortcut key to be able to turn that off and on. I just hit the T key on my keyboard, and I'm going to type the word menu here. Let's see what I'm going to do for my font. So I like the font Proxima Nova. It's a pretty popular font, and so I'm gonna make that my primary font here, and I'm just going to use the word menu. It's nice to have that there, and I can see as I hover, I'm 17 pixels from there. Maybe I want to bring it closer and maybe make it about 10. I don't know why it duplicated it. So I'm just going to delete that. One other thing that's pretty common in the navigation is to have a profile icon. So I know that's going to be a circle, so I'm going to hit the ellipse E there. And what I like to do is make it about the same size, maybe a little bit bigger, and I can see the size of that changing on the right hand side to 36. I'm going to make sure it's centered, and it's so nice to have these snap options here as well. I know my menu is 24 pixels to the left, so I'm going to bring this over and make sure that I'm about 24 pixels here. Now this is where it's really nice to have the UI faces plugin within Adobe XD, because I can go back to my plugins, panel, and really just click on this UI faces, go to Unsplash, and select my photos, and you can see what's going to happen here, which is really cool. So it's loading photos, pulling it from unsplash.com, and now I have all these UI faces that I can pull in as avatars. So I can select, and really it's great to match this with your user persona that we'll talk about a little later in the course. Let's see which one. We'll pick one randomly here. This guy has a great beard. I love that blue background, so I'm going to click on his photo, and we'll apply it. And now the cool thing is, because I already have my circle there, it's applying it right to the circle. And so that's a really awesome, easy way for that to add it into my prototype, because that plugin is just making it so easy for me to do that. I've already pre-designed my logo, and so I'm going to drag that in, and it came in really big, and so I'm going to size that down a little bit, and try to get it into the artboard. Wow, that came in big. Okay, let's resize that for a minute here. And actually, I'm gonna resize it so it's even quicker. We'll change that to 40 pixels tall, and now it's somewhere on my screen here. Where'd we go? Oh, there it is. Cool, we found it. What I love about the canvas, unlike maybe Adobe Illustrator, the Adobe XD canvas is a large and unlimited space, which is really nice. So I created this icon here. Maybe I'll call this. Egg Lovers app. My wife and I love to make eggs on Saturday morning, and so maybe this will be the Egg Lovers app here. So I've got my navigation. It's really simple. It includes the basic elements like menu, my brand icon, and a profile that I can quickly jump into that. Next I want to do is create a photo. So bring a photo in, and so I'm going to hit my my R tool again for my rectangle, and I really want this photo to be just a beautiful and impactful photo along this space. So I'm going to make it maybe 700 pixels tall, because I've got the background, I've got the width to do that, or the height to do that, and I'm going to drop that in, and I'm going to send it to the back there. So now I know it's behind my navigation. And if I move over here to the panel here on the left-hand side, I can see my layers starting to take place. So this is a time when I like to, after I get a little bit done here, I'll go in and I'll change this to photo background to make sure I have that. We'll see what this rectangle is. This can be the nav background. Have this icon, so we'll just call this the menu icon. We got the word menu, and so what I might do is, since this is already done, I'll probably just go ahead and group the nav, the logo, and profile and menu. And I'm just doing the same thing I would with Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator. I'm just hitting Command G with that. I'm going to name this navigation. So this is just cleaning up my nav really easily for me. I went on to the Unsplash website and I've got this great photo of what I'm trying to do here. And you can see when I bring in a photo from a file that I have created, I can drag it into pre-existing rectangles that I have, or the circle that I have here. And so that's really an awesome feature of Adobe XD. So I'm going to drag it into this photo. You can see this beautiful photo. And if I double click, I can actually see the entirety of the photo that's kind of masked behind there. And I can make it bigger or smaller depending on what kind of impact that I want on the site itself. I'm going to do that. And so now I've got this beautiful, egg photo that I want to have here. And let's title it. Let's call this the hard boiled avocado hard-boiled avocado sandwich. It looks beautiful. It looks delicious. And so this would be it looks like it would be a great sandwich to eat on a Saturday morning. I want to make this a really big, impactful font because it's going to be like the first thing you see whenever you come to this page, and we'll make it we'll make sure that this kind of goes 2 lines on us, and we'll bring it up. Now this would be where I want to bring up my layers, bring up my guides, and just make sure that I've got this situated within the guides. I want to make this maybe a little bit more bold and just make it a little bit more impactful within this space. So I'm going to bring it down just a little bit to make sure that I'm staying within that space. Maybe make my line height a little bit smaller as well here. So you can see I've got everything's lined up in my grids. I've got this beautiful photo of this hard-boiled egg. This is hard-boiled egg on avocado toast sandwich, and I've just got a really, really nice, stunning visual here. I kind of don't like how this black navigation just kind of sits on top of it like that. So one thing I might do is adjust the opacity, and so I can adjust the opacity here on the right-hand side if I double-click on the menu, and I'm just going to tone it down just a little bit so that it kind of sits there. You can kind of see it, but it's not so stark on top of it. One thing I think I want to do is I don't like the break that I have here, and so what I might do is use a gradient to maybe make this appear like it goes below the image, so the image kind of continues down the screen there. And so what I'm going to do is I'll just go in here, and I've created a rectangle. You can see that. I know it needs to appear behind the text itself that I've created. And so maybe let's try to do change from a solid color to a linear gradient. And so I can see that appears on the top. I don't want any gradient to be there. I want it to kind of blend itself down the page. And we'll use kind of a darker color to create that second color there. So you can see I've got this gradient. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it up here so it kind of looks like it just very, very nicely blends down the screen. And we'll create another background here, and we'll end up joining the two just to kind of clean up our interface. So you can see here now I've got this beautiful background, this beautiful photo that blends down into the bottom of the screen. So it's kind of a seamless transition, and we'll call this just the gradient background. And if I wanted to, I can actually maybe overlay these two. And I'll call this an overlay and group it with the photo background. And we'll just make this the photo background. And so you can see a really clean canvas here, or sorry, the artboard on the left-hand side. You see I have my text that's appearing above. Both my navigation and my photo have been grouped, and so I've got just a really clean, organized artboard here on the left-hand side. So here we are. We've got our title, hard-boiled avocado sandwich. Maybe I want to add a little bit of a description here. And one of the nice things about Adobe XD is if I click on the text tool, and I'm going to bring up my guides here. If I click and hold the text tool, I can actually create a text area. And so I'm just going to drag this kind of column to column here within my guidelines. And I've already copied some pre-generated text as I tried to describe this. And so I'm just going to bump this down because that's way too big a font to maybe 18. And we'll make this 18. And we'll make the font just a regular size font as well. So I've got my avocado hard-boiled avocado sandwich. And let's see, how far away are we from that? We'll make that, looks about, oh, I can't see that text, but it looks to be about 200 or maybe so more, 330 or so pixels there. It's hard to see that text on top of that, but I've got this hard-boiled sandwich. I've got some great introductory text, and maybe I want to put a button here at the very bottom just to kind of serve as an anchor point on this page. And so I'll bring in another rectangle. I'm going to bring up my columns again. Drag it column to column so that it sits there and I can see how far now I am from the bottom. To bring up these quick guides, which are going to be really helpful as you dive into XD, is just hitting the option button and it brings up the smart guides, they call it. And I can see that I'm 50 pixels from the bottom, even 36 left and right, and that looks really good. So one thing too that's really nice about Adobe XD is that if I drop in a rectangle, maybe I don't want it to be a rectangle. Maybe I want it to be a different shaped button. Popular options for buttons inside of the web or inside of applications are, the most common, square buttons. You can maybe make a 5-pixel rounded corner button. That's another popular size. And then there's also the pill shape. I like the pill shape in this one. And so we're going to make that fully rounded left and right of our button. And maybe I want a very vibrant green color here. And we're gonna that looks good to me right there. Let's see what that looks like without the guides on it, and we'll see if that looks good for us. So it's an interesting green color. It kind of matches with the color of the spinach that I have up there. And I'm gonna actually then just say maybe the option here is to download the recipe. Make it a kind of a generic name there. So download the recipe. That's a button that can be used for every detail page that we have. You can always have a download the recipe option there. I'm going to make this a little bit more bold and maybe a little bit bigger because that's my main call to action there at the bottom of the page. And I'm going to center that, make sure I'm centered 20/20 top and bottom. I'm centered within the middle of the app with the middle of the button itself. And the fill for that, I can change it if I wanted to. I'm just going to make sure that it's white, and that looks good to me. What I'm going to end up doing is just grouping that and call that the call to action or CTA button. We'll group the description and make this the recipe description. And everything looks good. Nav's going to be the first thing that I want to have up top, followed by the recipe description, then the CTA button, and the photo sits behind it. And so this all looks pretty good to me. I've got the Egg Lovers app, my profile icon. I've got my menu. I've got a title for my egg. I've got the description of what I might be enjoying with this recipe, and I've got a quick download recipe. So there you have it. In a matter of just a few minutes, generating an app screen that looks pretty sleek, pretty great. I'd love to eat this sandwich. But maybe it gives you an idea of what we're going to be learning in Adobe XD and some of the things that we're going to be trying out along the way and learning when it comes to building interactive prototypes and UI screens as well. So I hope this demo has been great for you. Please go ahead and watch Howard's demo, the full Adobe XD Part 1. It's going to be a great deep dive into kind of the intricacies of some of these different tools and functionalities, but I thought maybe it'd be a good idea just to quickly generate a concept for you in Adobe XD, talk through it, and maybe see how I've used Adobe XD, see it in action, maybe for the first time. So excited to dig into this with y'all, and we'll talk to you in another video. Have a good one.